health is good, says YouTube stream status. Then let's put it on. Hello my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Micromotor Workshop. Today with a special episode of Micro FC history. I want to talk about the development of micro flight controller history over the past, let's say 4 years. And to do that, I brought a couple of my friends along. I can find them back in here again. Switch over and turn off this guy down here. Welcome Pete, welcome Adam.
Hi Ben.
Hola.
Adam.
I've just put you up on the screen here, and I've also put the chat room up. Welcome Radar and Birdlow and whoever else wants to join down there. So yeah, let me introduce both of you. First, we know each other for quite a long time, so still the occasion is very rare that we sit together in a Skype session like that. So welcome, glad to be with you here. We can see on the right side with the winter hat on. That's Pedro Newman, fellow Aussie and yeah, longtime friend and hacker of micro flight controllers. Welcome, Pete.
Thanks Ben. Good to be here.
And then on the left we have Adam Madman Madron, also yeah, longtime friend, customer, and flight controller hacker. So yeah, welcome, Adam.
Hello. Thanks for that nice intro, Ben.
Yeah, welcome. I'm glad to be with you here. And on the stream below you guys, we have the chat room where just Pilsner Popper joined. Howdy ho, and yeah, Radar has already taken his place before. So for those of you watching live, I invite you to join the Discord live chat, not the YouTube chat, although we will have a look at that as well. So maybe Pete, if you can have an eye on the YouTube chat, if anyone else appears there, or Francisco Pilsner Popper in the chat, if you could have from time to time an eye on the YouTube chat and either pick up things that people say and ask there, or just drop the link to the Discord chat from time to time. As I usually say in these live streams, we use the Discord chat because it's a lot more feature-laden than the YouTube built-in chat. Primarily, what's missing in the YouTube chat is that regular users can post links and pictures and videos and all that fun stuff. We want you to participate, we want you to ask questions, but also to contribute your things in shape of pictures, videos, etc. So Pedro just posted the link to the live stream in the chat room. So if you happen to be in the chat room but don't know where to watch yet, open up that YouTube stream and have a look what's going on. So Pilsner Popper in the chat is looking forward to learning a lot about great flight controllers. I've put this up here in a split screen. I'm not sure if you guys actually can read that. Let me know if the split screen makes the chat large enough that you can actually read this, and please comment how you like that split screen, if I can just leave this up as is, or if you would prefer me during the conversation to switch between the individual streams, what I can also do, but I prefer just to leave it like that, then I don't have to bother clicking around on that thing and can contribute to the conversation or read in the chat room. So, Pedro says your check is in the mail at Radar. Well, that's the only one who's currently sitting around here, so well done, Radar. Yeah, let's get this show on the way. We need to talk today about micro flight controllers. I've put up a couple of my treasures up here on the desk. That's all samples of flight controllers that are currently not in use, but they're all in relatively good shape and would be usable, and they represent a little bit of the history that we have seen the micro flight controllers going through over the last couple of years. So before we begin with that, let me just put out a little definition of micro flight controllers for those who are watching this this recording here probably after the fact and don't know much what we're actually talking about. We want to talk about micro flight controllers that typically are, well, roughly the size of a stamp and have all the components integrated that you need to make flight. So if you put one of these onto a quadcopter, you can, that's the only electronics you need. So just connect battery and motors to it, and you are you can fly these things. That's the fascination that kept us on the ball to follow and push the development of these flight controllers. And that's what they all have in common, but they all come from very different people, different companies, different times in history. So we want to shed a little bit of light on that and talk about how flight controllers, micro brushed flight controllers, have developed over the past, I think, roughly around 4 years. So yeah, let's just start with that. Let me ask you, Adam. When did you start with that, and what was the first thing you've seen in microcopter land?
Well, in 2014, I bought a coaxial helicopter at the mall. So that was the first time I was reintroduced to RC models. And then I started looking around and I found the Nano QX. When I found that, I looked around to see what could be done to that to improve the performance of it. And that's when I found you. So I saw the videos of the Pocket Quad and you talking about how it was all in the software and it was nothing to do with the pilot, but you were like flipping this thing around and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was totally infatuated with the fact that you could do that with a flying remote control quadcopter. And after flying those coaxial helicopters, this was like night and day. So in 2014, that was the first time that I ever touched a Alien Wii. I bought one from you in, I think it was November, and or it was December 2014, and it was for my Christmas present to me, basically. And the first time I ever flew that thing, it was just like going from that coaxial helicopter to the Nano QX. It was so much more controllable, so much more sensitive, and so easy to put together. It was the Cross 08 kit that you were selling in that year, and so I put that together, and ever since then, that's been an obsession for me. Alien Wii, the flight card, the whole thing, you know. And I researched everything about it, and the multi-Wii was a huge thing with that, you know. What they did, how they created that flight card, you know, the multi-Wii software, and the guys that started everything, I think it was back in 2008, that just really totally entrenched me into this whole hobby, you know, and specifically like the Alien Wii cards.
Yeah, I
So
think
that's
that's
kind of my story.
yeah, good. That's some two. You mentioned I think two major milestones. You said the first thing you've flown yourself was the Alien flight controller, but you became aware of what's possible by watching some of my videos about the Hobby King Pocket Quad. And the interesting part here is that both flight controllers actually used the pretty much exact same components. So when you said you became of what's possible in end of 2014, yeah, remember you've been pretty late to the game and you have picked up things so super quickly. So end of 2014, that was already like 1.5, almost 2 years into me playing with these controllers, and I think it was pretty much 4 years ago, June or May 2013, I think I purchased this Hobby King Pocket Quad from Hobby King, and that was the first programmable flight controller I have seen and I have owned myself, and that was yeah, running multi-Wii, and was basically the template the for the Alien Wii flight controllers. So what we today know as the 8-bit Alien Wii Classic, that's running pretty much the exact same components like we had on the Hobby King Pocket Quad. So they were running a Atmel 32U4 processor and I think a IMU 6050 sensor unit, and this both together plus the ability to actually being able to change the input gains, etc., just made things possible that yeah, all of us were dreaming about. As you said, you put this thing in the air and was just flying so smooth and well and easy configurable. If you put a larger frame or faster motors on there, you could change the gains and play around with that. So, yeah, that was in the, and in those 1.5 years before you joined the club, Adam, we've been doing a lot of groundwork. So, all these things were just not working at this stage. So even though you could buy a flight controller from Hobby King, the version of MultiWii that they've installed there and the default settings that they've put out there, that was just not working properly. So. There was a lot of smart guys. If any one of you wants to see the history, how it unfolds at that time, I suggest to dig out the Hobby King Pocket Quad thread on RC Groups. I still remember my first post on my account on RC Groups. I created a new account at this stage. I had one before, but I forgot the password, and I think I only posted twice, and that was about my RC cars. But then when this thing came around, I thought, okay, I know this is going to be a big challenge, and I've been reading the thread before a little bit because I knew there's lots of things coming down the pipe that I needed to know. So I posted, I think the first post with my account at this stage was, hey guys, I'm happy to join the party or something like that, because I just at that day got the Hobby King Pocket Quad flight controller and didn't know anything to do with that. But I knew that I somehow had to get a better firmware on and flash it on it, etc. So, but me personally, even though I've learned programming, at school and a little bit later in university as well, I was never really a programmer. I can understand code and change it a little bit, etc., and copy things from here to there, but I was never really into this enough to develop things myself, and also not on the hardware development side. So to get all this stuff working at that time, I really heavily relied on people in that RC Groups thread to, to create firmware basically and tell me other little things I had to know in order to make these things fly. And yeah, I think like you, Adam, mostly I just copied things and learned things from people in the forum, and was so thankful for these people being there and teaching me that I decided to pass all that on and write a lot of tutorials and make a lot of videos to, you know, at first inspire people, show them what's working, but also then enable them to copy that themselves. And yes, I'm glad that we always have, you know, smart engineers on our side to help us out there, and that's why I also have Peter here in the chat to help us out a little bit more, because you know, you Peter, I think you also picked this up yourself kind of on the go, but I think, yeah, amongst us three here, you're probably the one with the most internal knowledge about all these flight controllers, how they actually work, etc. So yeah, if you want to take the word and talk a little bit how you got into all this, how you've experienced this, why, and what you're doing.
Yeah, sure, Ben. So how I got into it, I think it was the start of 2015 or mid-20, the year before. I really can't remember the time frame, but I came across Arduino microcontroller platform, and I thought this looks pretty cool. So I started annoying people on the Arduino forum and learning a little bit about that. And then I came across a series of videos on YouTube by iForce2D, the New Zealand guy, and they were called Cheap Ass Quadcopter. So he built a quadcopter out of timber, a brushless quad out of timber with an Arduino and IMU board all connected together and made a quad. And then I just came across your thread on RC groups, and that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, so, you know, since then, Adam, you're making noise.
Sorry.
So, yeah, since then, Peter, I know you as a very active member of basically all the forums that we tend to participate in. Yeah, like very similar to Adam as well. So yeah, I think both of you have always been yeah, not only thought leaders in terms of how to put these little things together and what to change, but also, you know, in terms of how to drag in new people and introduce them to the hobby and help them to get their act together, acquire the tools and the knowledge to do what you need to do in order to maintain flight, but also then sort of in the next stage, you know, to help these people to understand what it is, build their own flight controllers, and pass on the knowledge that they've acquired from you guys. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah, I buy Adam totally. His enthusiasm is quite infectious, shall we say.
Well, I try to drag as many people down with me as I can.
Yeah, it's yeah, please go on.
It's not a bad way to go. It's not a bad way to go. This, as far as an addiction goes, if you're going to be addicted to something, these quads are pretty fun. So you get a lot of repayment for what you do, as far as whatever sacrifices you put into it, you get it back. And for me, it was all about trying to save those last precious alien we that were out there. When I knew that it was coming to the end, you know, I think I was the first guy that was offering to fix any cards for people. And I still, you know, I have a couple cards here right now that I will eventually refurbish for people and send back to them. But I've never really asked for anything from anyone. When I fix a card, I just fix it, send it back to them. If they want to, you know, throw me something for it, then that's fine. And if they don't, if they can't afford it, that's fine too.
Yeah, so you've become famous as the FC doctor, just because you you like to help people. You know, you knew how this works, and yeah, I I know myself. I've sent you quite a few cards to to fix up.
Yeah, and I got a few of those out to other people. So, and I still have a couple that are sitting in the bin, but there's no rush. They'll find a good home.
Yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, so let's continue a little bit in the history before we yeah, have a more intensive look into the chat room. So if you have any questions, guys, out there, throw them up in the chat room, and we'll go through there in time. So yeah, that time, where so end of 2014, where at that time already quite a few of the famous Alienware flight controllers have been around, but that was still the time where they've been really scarce. There, where things went crazy. I remember we started to produce a small batch of them, and uh, they would sell out within days, if not hours, even though the community around them was really small. So the the development at that stage, from the only large company who was doing micro flight controller development at this stage, went, in the opinion of most of us flyers, into the wrong direction. So at that time, um, most of us have been using either the Hobby King Pocket Quad or the Micro MWC flight controller, which have been both produced by Hextronic, the company um, mostly sold, or maybe exclusively sold, through Hobby King. So the Hobby King Pocket Quad was, from the functionality and from the usability, a very good flight controller, very stable, very easy to use, but it had one major problem, and that was it was designed to also be the frame. So I don't have an example here because I've given away I think, last two, maybe there's one left, but I've given away the last two models that I had in working order using my Hobby King Pocket Quad flight controllers. But basically, the flight controller had little arms coming out at the side, which made the frame. So you would stick the motor mounts directly onto the extensions of the flight controller, and that was just like the regular PCB. And well, that would break eventually. And once these arms have broken off, then you could literally throw away the flight controller. So, and uh, that was the big problem at this stage, because yeah, I crashed them a few times, and boom, there goes another $50 for a flight controller. So that was the only real drawback uh, on that card. And a smart friend of ours, uh, you both might have still seen him in action. Uh, Lance, at that time, running a small hobby business by the name of Alien Quads. He has taken the design of the Hobby King Pocket Quad and put that on a separate card with a couple of changes in the development to make it even easier and more reliable to use. And that's what quite a few people of us enjoyed flying. But the problem with that was not commercially available. If people wanted to copy our builds, they were pretty much out of luck, because it was considered rocket science at this stage to build small flight controllers. But lucky enough, Lance had a strong sense for sharing. His
Oh,
dream of flight was shared with his dream of making this possible to others. And so he shared plans of that online, and he contacted me at some stage and said, "Look here, what I created. This flies much better than the Micro MWC flight controller that you are using." And he offered me to send me one of them. So maybe this is even one of the first ones here. So let me see. These square ones here, I'll put this up a little larger in a second for you guys on the screen. These square controllers here, these are the first controllers. That could be one of the first that I have received from Lance. It doesn't even say Alien Wii yet on the back. I'm sorry, there's a bit of tape here, but it already has a little alien head, so that was on there from the very beginning. But the controller says brushed micro V version 1.6.
Micro Wii.
Yeah, micro V. Not sure if you can read this. Probably not.
Didn't it go micro Wii were the first ones, and then alien quads? Some of them were marked alien quads, possibly.
Yeah, so this shape was the first I got, where the power cable and the receiver cable were soldered on straight onto the board, which then turned out to be a weak spot, because moving this around would break them. So in further releases, these controllers got little plugs to plug the receiver and the power cord in. And during that time, Lance wasn't only sharing the plans for his flight controllers, but he also made quite a few of these controllers available to others. So I think he's given away probably hundreds of controllers to people around the world, and many times not asking for anything back. Yeah, Adam, I see you are holding a controller there in the camera. I see it's a square, original looking OG style alien card. I couldn't see on the back what's on there. It was too blurry on the sky.
It says brushed micro Wii revision 0.6 designed by Lance.
What, 0.6 or 1.6?
0.6.
Yeah,
it says 0.6.
Well, you beat me to that in this case. I'm not sure if I have an older one. I probably do have a couple of built ones where there might be others which I don't want to take off. Yeah, but the oldest I could find in my stash here was a version 1.6.
This was one you sent to me as well. It also has a serial number on the front and says alienquads.com. So I'm assuming one of the first ones of the bunch that Lance made.
So Ben, so when Lance first started making them, I believe that they were on hand-etched PCBs. Is that right? Or
on what?
The very first one? Hand-etched PCBs. Ones that he made at home with...
Yes, yeah. He literally made them from scratch completely at home.
So with ferric chloride or whatever, and a copper FR4 or whatever it is board, and etched the traces, soldered all the components on, and did it that way initially.
I think that's what he was doing. He didn't always share everything freely, how exactly he was doing it. And also, I wasn't really asking about it because I knew this was completely out of my my pay grade anyway. I didn't know how to do all these little things. What I learned and what I like doing is, my trade certificate says system integration. And that's really what I like doing. I like understanding the things and then putting them together, but I don't really need to understand all the individual parts. That will cost me too much time as well. I'm getting entrenched too much and lose the overview about the whole thing, which in this case is I just wanted to get the thing flying better. So I didn't care too much about it, how he did it and what component he used. I was very happy that it was working at all, and that he was cranking out these flight controllers at at that speed that we was doing it in the first place. I was only interested in getting a few of them myself, and I knew I wouldn't be happy with just one or two quads because I want to fly them all the time. So I need to have at least one or two or three backups in order to, if something uh, breaks, that I don't have to stop flying, but can keep going and fix things later on. But also just, to have a backup in case things go lost. I lost a few in the ocean or somewhere. My son had one fly away because he just wanted to see what that little stick does. And so, um, yeah, and also, yeah, I contributed, I think, a lot to other people getting aware of this because as soon as I got the first of those flight controllers, I was throwing it up in the air, put my camera up there, and say, "Hey, look, guys, what I have!" And then everyone, of course, got interested in that and was bugging me and Orlands uh, to get another one of these flight controllers. So we we ended up trying to get a production up on these flight controllers, and we succeeded, a little bit. We made 50 here and 100 here, and spread them over the time of, I think, mid of 2014. We did the first batch, and so that was really small, and that most of them were still hand soldered. So I think that was the first few controllers you, Adam, got at that stage. And yeah,
Yeah.
I also remember we didn't make it easy to get your hands on one of them.
No.
So you had to be on your toes, you had to get up in the middle of the night and use the 2.5 minute window to purchase one and things like that. So
Oh,
I
they
stayed
went
awake
they
many
went really
nights.
quick. Sorry, Adam.
I stayed awake many nights to get those flight cards. So checking the internet every like half hour, waking up. I
yeah,
finally got one at 3 a.m. in the morning one night.
yeah. So the problem was we had lots of people who wanted one of them, and we're making them only in so small batches that um, I think after we made a few and invested into a little larger production, I think we made around um, 200 of them um, per month, and well, that wasn't really that frequent. We made one batch of 200, and then I knew the next batch of 200 would be around 6 weeks out. So I knew that if I put up these 200 right now, then they would sell out in like an hour or two, and then over the next 6 months, people would constantly bug me and tell me, why didn't you tell me that you put them on sale at that time? And I would constantly have people nagging me that they couldn't get one. So what we decided to do is to put up 5 of these controllers every day, because that was pretty much then those 200 would be used up then when we expected the next one. So every time I felt like it, once during the day, or I think at some stage we did it twice during the day, I went up to the web shop and put 5 more for sale, and then you could look at them because notifications would be sent to people, and they would be sold out in a matter of minutes every time. And yeah, people put notifications. One guy even had a script running that would notify him of any change on the website, so he would quickly go there and see if new flight controllers were up for sale. And after doing this for a couple of weeks, I didn't think too much about it, but some stage someone sent me a message and say, "Stop messing with my life. I really want to get one of these controllers so hard, and I didn't have much sleep over the last couple of weeks because I'm checking your frigging website every couple of minutes. I have told my friends and my girlfriend and my dog to check one out when they see it." So yeah, that was interesting times. So yeah, I think that stage we went through, sort of 2014 and first half of 2015. Before then, in that time, a few more different flight controllers became available. Like some of you might remember the multi-flight flight controller and the beef board, and there were a few others as well.
Multi-wii or multi-flight, right?
Yeah, multi-flight, the guy in the UK. So there was a
Burgess.
there was like a homegrown project as well, same as the beef board. What was his name again? Curtis Beef.
Curtis
Curtis Beef.
I'm sure that's like an artist name, right? So his name wasn't Beef, but his first name was Curtis.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't heard from him for a long time as well. So they both kind of appeared and made pretty well, pretty good boards, pretty innovative at this stage. They had a few more features than the Alien flight controllers. So the multi-flight even had an option of like a plug-in VTX that you can control over the flight controller and things like that. But yeah, let's make a quick cut at this stage here and have a look in the chat room if we see any known faces here, and if there are any questions that we can answer or any other topics that we can talk about. So I see a lot of people in here. So Hoop DJ, I don't remember you. Welcome. Mr. Rebel, I well remember you. Welcome back. Bruce Dad is back as well. Hello, how are you? Old Gravy Leg. The Herbing Cowboy is here as well. And who else did? Oh, here. Who did I just scroll? Here's someone green. Abducted Tech. Welcome back. Haven't seen you for a long time. Kit is out. Unfortunately, I can't stream and charge my phone at the same time. Down to 3%. Ooh, oh, I hope you find a laptop, Vanessa. So, Hoop DJ is a friend of Charlie. Who's Charlie?
Bruce's dad.
Bruce's dad is Charlie? Okay.
Yep.
So.
Watch him.
So the alien locator was signed in under her name. So everyone is a friend of Charlie. Welcome, Charlie. Dolan FPV is coming along as well. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions on the flight controller history as far as we have outlined this until now, please ask them now. Yeah, if not, I just passed the word back to one of you guys, Adam or Pete. Do you have any questions until then? I mean, this is sort of roughly the point in time where you have joined the party. So yeah, let me know if I missed anything until now.
Adam, you're always up for a chat.
Oh, so you can make me do all the talking, huh?
Basically, yes.
Well, I would have to say that just besides the fact that the Alien Wii was like a really innovative product, that the camaraderie that everybody has shared through learning how to use these flight cards has also been a great thing for like the community. And it started with Benedict posting all the videos, showing people how to do this, how to do that, or just how cool it is to fly one of these things and what you could possibly do with them. So for me, it was, a combination of the fact that MultiWii had designed a flight card that was based off of a Nintendo Wii controller and an Arduino. And when I figured that out, and then everything that MultiWii did to incorporate the software to control it, it just totally blew my mind. So when I was researching the alien we and figuring all that out, that's what really drove me to go deeper and deeper into this. And then, of course, the fact that the alien we was just such a plug and play card. You could, the first one I bought, the Cross 08 kit in 2014 of December, was just totally mind-blowing to me because I could build this thing within 15 minutes, put the motors in the frame, put the props on, throw the flight card on there, plug them all in, and I've got a flying quad. And that was what really just totally sunk me into it. It was a combination of things. It was camaraderie in the forums, the people that were trying to help everybody else, and then learning that stuff. Anybody that likes to tinker with things, this was like a godsend for me because I started playing with the, helicopters and stuff, and the quads were so much more user friendly. So
Yeah, I think
that's kind of my
that's a
story.
good point. Yeah, so that really is what enabled me in the first place to do all this, but also then what kept me going, as you mentioned, the camaraderie around all that everyone is helping out each other, and yeah, it's just been the sort of enthusiasm that people have developed by being so excited about that this thing actually works and that you can fly something with so little effort, and the the excitement about that, I think, created for many people the desire to share that by saying, look, it's not so difficult. You just gotta plug this in, program that, solder that, and off you go. But still, it was a big effort for most of us who we're not familiar with that technology to make it happen. So you need someone to actually explain you the ropes of how this all works together. And yeah, I think this was in the end which which connected it all together. That once you've experienced that, people would just be selflessly help you to get this thing in the air, then you are so excited about this and so also so thankful. So I get many times I got the question, or someone who has successfully put this together say, thank you so much for all your help. What can I do to pay you back? And that developed kind of the spirit to give it the answer. You don't pay me anything back. You just pay it forward. You know it's your task to pass on the knowledge. And as we famously dubbed that amongst some of our circles, this is the noob cycle. You come into the hobby as a new guy, you don't know anything, but you experience that it's actually quite easy, and you experience the hospitality of the other people in there. And then once you have gotten over the first few steps and know how things work out themselves, many people then have taken that amongst themselves to pass on the knowledge and be the latest front in helping other people who have been constantly asking the same questions again and again. So all these forums and especially the Facebook groups, basically consist of streams of always reoccurring questions, but amazingly, there are always people who have just gotten to the stage of the knowledge and who are very happy to pass it on. I mean, always speaking, Adam is probably typing there and helping other people out how to find things and how to put things together.
Yeah, well, I think as on Lance's #1 proponent, as we all no doubt know, and I think he's the one who fostered this sharing of what he did basically initially for himself, and then shared amongst his associates like Ben and Dave Woods and all the rest of you guys. And then so you're the second tier of enthusiasm And then Adam, of course, came along and perpetuated that even further. So you guys are like the three pillars of Alien We in particular. Because I think Alien We and now Alien Flight holds a special place because it was really the first one that spurred on a lot of this explosion of microquads, the way I read it anyway.
Yeah, so Lance has definitely innovated at this stage. No one else was doing it like what he was doing, which is not not only referring to the technical advantages, but just as you said, as the openly sharing all that information and putting it all out there. Everyone who had the knowledge to put electronics together with Lance's plans, he was unable to actually put these controllers together himself. And yeah, I never could myself. I never really put in the effort to put in together all the tools, etc. But I know that both of you did, and I'm watching all these people day in and day out, especially on the Alien We fan club and on your hacker initiative, Pedro, on Facebook, putting them together on a daily basis with your help, and putting together the tools, etc. And many smart people have been spawned from there to move this hobby along. And as we currently see, there are quite a few people who are taking this technology now on and making new shapes of flight controllers, like the Whoop style flight controllers, etc.
Yeah, look, the whole thing of when Lance initially shut down Alien We and released initially the only the circuit schematic for the Alien We narrow classic, and then of course went on to then he opened up Alien Flight thereafter, and we had a series of shutdowns and takedowns, and of course Lance is no longer around, but who knows what will happen in the future. And then of course we had people like Michael Jacob, MJ666, who was involved with Lance early on, so we all owe him a great debt of gratitude too on the software side. And then of course Gary Baines came in a couple of years ago and took it to the next level with Michael. So these guys are helping to perpetuate and drive this hobby even further. So they are we owe them a big debt of gratitude too.
Yeah, there are lots of people who contributed to things as they are today. Let's go a little bit through the chat room. I see Adam is already busy typing there. I've been busy talking and listening to you guys, so I haven't even looked at much at the actual content of the chat. So let's have a look if we can pick out any questions here. So the alien locator says, at what point or year did Lance step away? I'm sorry, Pete, what did you want to say?
No, that was
actually me. I just wanted to point out that Dave Woods, very few people know what his participation was in all of this and how he had tested like the micromotors way back when. And if you look into the RC Group's forums, you'll see the threads that he created to test the motors and do all kinds of cool stuff,
Yeah, that's right. Dave Woods was one of the first innovators there. So I remember I didn't know anything about the motors, and I read then his thread about testing those, etc. And that actually got me interested and saying, oh, something needs to be happen here. I think the motors are one of the biggest problems there. So yeah, amongst
Pete,
us
you're
three,
making noise.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so amongst us three, we've been a good team for quite some time. Dave was, even though he was very early on doing all these motor tests, he very quickly then, when he saw me getting involved with that, was just starting to buy motors from me and channeled his energy into making frames. And and when Lance saw that I'm making motors and Dave's making frames, he, contacted us and started a little trade going on there. So we all three of us had each other's motors, frames, and flight controllers, and all that worked together really well. So um, yeah, that's how things started. And to cut to the end, at least of that episode, when Vanessa's asking here, or was it Josh, at what point or year did Lance step away? So, that was not one point in time where he was stepping away. So Lance's dream was to make flight for himself and to share this with other enthusiasts who just wanted to have something um, to play with and to see the world with a different perspective. And uh, I think it was a big problem for him that this all kind of got commercialized, and that he got he received so much personal attention. I think he never really expected that to become that big, and so many people literally chasing him down and bugging him with no end to make him one of these controllers as well. And yeah, so I think I don't remember exactly when that was, but I think it was probably mid towards end of 2015 that
Yeah, September is about when he totally bagged it, I think, of 2015.
yeah, so
He was actually talking to me at that time, and a lot of things were going on, and those bad fets that came on the Alien Week Classic cards, the classic narrows that were supposed to be out in the last batch, and then Tony and Rebecca both sold all theirs, and Lance had to recall those, and he took back the ones from you. So that was, September, I think 2015 was,
yeah,
or was it? Yeah, 2015 is when he decided to bag it.
yeah, I think that exactly that nailed the coffin for that project, because yeah, at this stage we slowly moved up in size for production for these flight controllers, and I think this was the first like really big batch, which was like I
Yeah,
don't know, maybe.
400 cards, right?
Yeah, I think all in up, it was like 1,000 or something that were in production, and that
Oh,
was big money at this stage, because even though uh, these cards were more expensive than many others out there as well, we hardly made any money of them. So this was an investment of like somewhere between 30 and $50,000, which
Ooh.
was not in the end supposed to make us any money. So we would be done with that if we sort of made back what we invested. So there was no plan for much profit out of that. So, but that also means that everything that was going lost at this stage was literally to be paid um, out of our pocket. And I know that Lance was always very, very careful and generous and polite towards other people. So when all this came downstream, I think he copped a lot more of a loss than he was wanting to admit at this stage. And but yeah, it was big enough for him to get so frustrated about this that he said he doesn't want to do this anymore. Which doing that means being involved with making these cards commercially available. He still wanted to share his ideas and his plans, etc., but he didn't want to be involved in any way in continue producing those cards. And even though there have been a few other attempts down the line. So Michael Jacob continued that relationship with Lance for another couple of years. I think even into early this year. But yeah, I think this was in general nothing that Lance really wanted. He didn't want it to be involved too much in customer support, etc. It was always quite upsetting for him if people had problems with these flight controllers. He was always very concerned about that people couldn't be happy about this. He was sharing one of the first examples with that he made with me. And whenever I had a problem, he is taking so much time. We spent so much time on Skype, on chat, on the phone, etc. And he was helping me fixing the issues that partly I brought up myself by putting these things together and they're not working properly. So, and that's what he did to everyone who had problems with these cards. So I think it just went over his head at some stage. He couldn't deal at all with people being not happy with his work, even though it was just a few. Most people were so thankful and just wanted to express their gratitude and maybe get another card out of him. But yeah, he didn't like the stage time at all. I think this was probably one of the main issues why he stepped back from that what he had created. And but still, I think the true spirit he still kept up there, because what he continued to do after all that was continue to develop the flight controllers and put out plans to for new setups. So we still even have quite a few plans out there which never have been built in any commercial quantity. But if you are a electronics person yourself, know how to put together a couple of basic SMD components, you can go to the website, download instructions, and put them together yourself. So yeah, spirit still remains, but Lance unfortunately hasn't been very active on all of our social platforms for the last 1.5, 2 years. But I hope that he's still following all this this project that he has created, and that's still living on. Because as it is, if you put something out there into the open source, you cannot take it back. People will have copied it at this stage, and the license you put on there at this stage, you cannot take it back. Everything you put on the internet, it stays there forever, as long as there are people who keep pushing it. So let's go on in the chat room. Old Gravy Leg has a question for everyone. What's the limiting factor with brushed builds right now? Like, what is holding everyone back?
Just doing it.
Yeah, I think there's nothing really holding it back. This all works great, and the main thing why you see people moving to brushless quads is primarily the raw power output. The little brushed motors we use, they don't scale really very well. They go up to 8.5, maybe 10 millimeters, maybe even 12 millimeters, but above that, this technology doesn't work properly. So the typical brushed motors that are used in larger quads, they don't work really that well. You need brushless quads to produce more power to create larger quads. But for the small quads, the brushed motors have the main advantage that they don't require an ESC, and that's why you can build a lot lighter and a lot less complicated. If you have a brushed flight controller, there's 8 connections, 4 connections with 2 wires each for each motor. So you have to plug 4 little plugs in, or if there's no plugs on the flight controller, you have to do 8 solder joints. But if you have ESCs in between there, that makes it, I think I calculated once, that makes it, instead of 8 connections, makes it 48 connections. So you want to solder 48 little connections on 2.5 by 2.5 centimeter square. That can be quite tricky, and even though technology progressed a lot in that stage, it's still quite a challenge to put together a micro brushless quad, and that simplicity is the main thing where we still are doing brushed builds, and yeah, they are not really holding back. I mean, we've seen tens of thousands of people building little brushed quads over the course of the last year since the tiny whoop craze funneled people into this hobby. So I think the tiny whoop is probably the most flown quad on the planet. So yeah, old gravy leg. I don't see them being held back. Of course, they are little, flimsy, and can't carry very high quality cameras, but everyone is having fun with them. So there we go. Tom H, welcome. Glad that you finally make one of these live streams. I apologize for doing them that frequently and always with that short of a notice, but that's how my life works. We come up with something on Friday, and then we're putting it into production on Sunday. That's how it works. Alien We and the community started the whole hobby. Well, I think we gotta give Hextronic Hobby King some credit too. They've put out the blueprint there. That's what got us started playing with that. And well, their ignorance and their corporate attitude led to other people picking up the slack. So I think definitely what Alienwee and the community around that added in terms of spin, even more so than technology, is just the spirit of sharing, the fun and sharing the information, and to make it all happen. So I think that's what really changed it for me. I've been sort of a passive member of many RC communities before. Whenever I had a toy to play, I was reading on the forums, etc. But this topic was the one that brought me into actually actively creating content and putting information out there for many others. And I know that many of you guys followed those steps, and that's what created the community, which has probably a few thousand members out there in the world. And yeah, to me it kind of feels like the Geeks Union. So Ryder says what's most interesting is that the Alien, despite all the other new boards, still flies best right out of the box. Yeah, that is right. Can I give this a thumbs up too? Yeah. So,
I'd just like to mention that the Pocket Quad was originally developed by a guy on the Facebook groups called Ulix FPV, a guy from Belgium.
Really?
Yeah, he developed the Pocket Quad as acknowledged by Lance in a thread on the Micromotor community.
I didn't know that.
His English isn't very good, but he even had a photo put up the other day of one of the first handmade boards that he did, based on Alex's work with Multi-Wii right back in the early days.
Alex in Paris, yeah.
Yeah, Alex in Paris. And Ulix had a photo posted the other day. I'll see if I can find it.
I'm looking right now.
I didn't know that. So.
And it was based on at Mega 328, actually.
Yeah, that's
the one's now 32U4. The square-shaped ones. This was based on the lesser spec one, 328, I think they are.
Yeah,
I'll find
that's the one what the Micro MWC runs on as well, which we all felt was kind of a step back.
Yeah.
Because the main differences between the 32.8 and the 32U4 processor was that the U4 had a couple of extra resources that you could use to put a USB interface and programmer right onto the card. So you would just need to connect a USB cord, and then you could program the thing. whilst on the 32.8 processor, you had to have an external programmer, which was part of the whole issue why this thing was so hard to program.
Actually, Bruce's dad, 13, just posted Ulix's picture in the chat then of this board that I'm talking about.
Let me scroll
Bruce
down.
is quick.
Bruce is quick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've actually seen
No,
that. I didn't know that is that.
Yeah,
And
that's
if you look at that, you can see that's hand etched.
Yeah. No PCB manufacturer involved in that
No.
one.
Trying to see if I can get this larger. No, this doesn't open up.
Yeah, it's not a particularly large photo, unfortunately.
So hang on, let me just. This computer went to sleep. This is camera 4. Let me put that up on the screen. So yeah, that's the chat room. Full screen now. So that you're saying is a 32U4 board, which Ulix.
I think that's
made
what he said. Yep.
When is that? Like 2012?
I'm not sure, Ben.
I think it was actually earlier. Let's see here. What's he say? Got to read the translation. I don't think he says in the post when he did that.
That looks really small though. What is that?
It is.
25.
Yeah, 27 by 28, maybe, millimeters.
Yeah, he's got another picture of up next to vernier or micrometer. It's got the ruler ones, and then he's got ones with a vernier there.
If you look into the comments on that page, he says this is a smaller version for the Pocket, AAT Mega 328 and AITG 3200 and RX Spectrum PPM. That's Google translation though, which is not so good.
Yeah, so that looks really old school.
Yeah. See-through PCB with the copper traces. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've just put this up full screen and large on the stream for everyone to see.
On the FPV video screen, huh?
Yeah, so it's just on the stream. So for those who are watching this after the fact, you can still go into the chat room and scroll up in history, and you'll be able to see all these things that have been posted in the chat room for yourself if you want to follow those links. But yet I've put it up on the screen for everyone to see. So. Let's read on here. So this was, let's scroll up a little bit. I think I missed a few things. Potato TV. Did you anything, guys, did you see anything in the chat room in terms of questions that we should answer?
Not so far here.
Okay, lots of conversation. I won't read all of that. Peter looks like he's actually thinking. So
I'm trying to find the thread on Micromotor Community where Lance acknowledged about Ulix's Hobby Kings selling the pop.
Yeah, while you are thinking so hard, the camera's pointing right up your nose.
Oh,
yeah.
Charming.
Shave those nose hairs, Pete.
So
that's what pulls the ladies in. Right out. Now I'm self-conscious.
So yeah, I like Mario Brothers. Exactly. I've always liked the sounds of Mario Brothers. That reminds me of
the last video.
Yeah, I've done, one of my first videos, I actually used those sounds as well. I'm flying around on the playground and flying through these little huts there. Yeah, always reminded me of, flying FPV with those little things. It's like Mario Kart. And actually, there will be a couple of videos coming up where we actually, finally make one of my dreams come true. I have this setup now
Flying
sitting
to
on
the mailbox.
flying, yeah, as well. But no, we would actually have the split screen like you
Sorry.
see this now. The quad split generator, what we're using here now. The initial purpose of that was to put 4 FPV screens together on one screen. So like with Mario Kart. So I've now a decent sized TV up there. So we put up the split screen, and then 4 of us can literally sit in front of the TV. Everyone with his controller in the hand, and we'll be flying races around the house, and kind of seeing it on the TV as a split screen. So
Excellent.
it will come true in one of the next couple of weeks. I'll do a little event down here, and we'll do that. So, yeah, that's not Mario Brothers, but Mario Kart. But yeah, I've taken the sounds of Mario Brothers, exactly. Bling, bling.
Yeah,
So,
I have Mario Kart on my Wii.
yeah. So, what else is here? Any questions? What makes a Pedro V a Pedro V? Well, before we ask Pedro about this, I actually do have one here. So let me hold this in the camera. What's this camera? 3. So this here, I'm the proud owner of one of the very few Pedro Vs. And I do have a second one, which I think is red, right? You've sent me 2. The red one is on one of my...
Red and a green one.
Yeah, exactly. So this is made after the Alienwee classic recipe, and this is proof that you can just take the schematics and make your own. So yeah, Pedro, you made this board. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? What made you do this and what you had to go through to make this happen?
Yeah, sure. So, Lance, I think it was when Alienwee was still going, or when he just shut it down, which was in September, October 2015, Adam, I think, from memory. And he released the circuit schematic only, not the board Eagle file for that card, the Alienwee Classic Narrow. So Adam and I thought we could develop a board file from it. So Adam mainly took care of locating all the components, and I took care of learning with a bit of help of how to do the board layout for it. So we did that, and I sent the files off to China and got some boards made, and strangely enough, they worked. So basically that board is, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same as an Alienwee Classic Narrow, but the components are in slightly different positions because I laid them out as best as I could from just looking at one of the genuine Alienwee cards. So that's about it.
So you basically had to design all the traces where they go again, because that was the information you didn't have?
Yes, basically. So I had the circuit, so that's showing me how all the components connect together. But then they have to be, so you have that in Eagle file, then you've got to generate a board file, which is what you ultimately give to the PCB manufacturer to make the board. So from the circuit schematic, you've got to lay the parts out on the board in what position you think they should go in. So I just looked at the Alienwee board and placed them in roughly the same position. And then it's a matter of routing all the traces between all the components. So I did get a bit of help from a guy on the Arduino forum just for the final routing, because I'd never done anything that complex before. And as I say, it all worked. So that was good.
Yeah, so I can personally attest to that they work great. So, I mean, I got those at a time where I already have had enough of the uh, commercially made Alienware controllers for myself. So, when we sold a few, I always made sure that I have enough for my own purposes. But yeah, that's why this one's always still sitting here as kind of a gem. This was, I think, never even flown once. So, um, but yeah, it's sitting there. If times are getting tough, uh, I'll chuck this thing up and it'll make me fly
It'll,
as well.
that's the
No,
way.
no, I know that you have hand soldered this, so the PCB is not hand etched, so that's made in the factory.
No,
But
no.
you've hand
Yeah,
soldered all the
yeah,
components and tested it, right?
yeah. Yeah, as we all do, all the guys on particularly the FC hackers group, we all hand solder them, a variety of methods from, simple as using a hot air gun and just solder paste or the ordinary solder and tweezers and flux, and that's sort of the simplest method. And then a few of us purchased different designs of ovens, like infrared ovens, a couple of the guys, and I just have a toaster oven with a PID controller for it that I bought from Ireland, and you know, using solder stencils to distribute the solder paste. But there's a variety of methods, and the number of people that have taken up the challenge over the last 6 months to a year is just amazing. Incredible.
Yeah, I was also amazed about how many people are actually doing it. So
Yeah.
there's quite a few. I see you always maintaining the Alienware or the AW fan club page, and always putting a little bit of personal history about the people up there, and usually you've gotten to know them from other forums, etc. And yeah, all really enthusiastic people who spend the time to yeah, acquire the knowledge and the skills to actually make these things. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, as I said before, you're a big part of all this micro quad development and perpetuation too, Ben. So you pat yourself on the back as well.
Yeah, thank you. But I gotta admit, I don't have any of that intricate knowledge about putting these things together. But yeah, I always enjoyed flying these things myself in the first place, but then also to connect the people who make them and the people who want them. So uh, yeah, I think this has been, liberated many of us in terms of, a personal way to fly our things. Might it be just line of sight or take it to the next level and fly these things FPV and actually feel like you are actually flying, even though you're slightly vision impaired when you're flying, but still it's happening, you're flying. Um, so liberating
Who are
on
you
that front.
talking about?
I'm not talking about you in particular. I'm just talking about in general about the vision we get from the FPV streams is so crappy, especially
Yeah.
on these micro quads that recently I've since I've set up this stuff there where I can see my FPV stream on the TV, that actually made also my family being able to see much more what I'm doing, because previously they would come in and I would be sitting in the corner with my goggles on and don't talk to me until I'm landing. And
Yeah.
and then they would they would
Yeah.
they would they would assume that I'm flying around outside somewhere, and then suddenly this thing comes buzzing in, and I can say, now you can talk to me again. But now they come and actually see me sitting in front of the TV and see the stream, or even if I have my goggles on, I usually have the screen going up there because that's my recording station. So I record almost all my flights just for the purpose of maybe something really cool happens and then I want to have this on video, or maybe you
Or
know,
maybe something crappy happens and
yeah,
you have to go
that's
find it.
a lot more likely that something happens, and then I want to
Yeah.
go back in the recording and see where it actually crashed, so I have a better chance to find it. But that leads to them when they walk into the room, they see the video up there, and my wife recently said, "Is that what you're seeing? Why is it looking so blurry and so crappy?" And I
Yeah,
say, "Yeah,
because that's how it is.
that's how it is." And I then explained to her, it's not so much that we want to have like great landscape photography and I'm going to win some video quality prize on that. This is 480p or PAL NTSC with lots of artifacts of a really crappy small sensor, and it's not about looking great, it's about that it's possible. I can fly this thing around the house here and I know roughly where it is, and I can come back. So that's, mission accomplished. And yes, I wish we had like 1080p, super crystal clear, high dynamic range image, but it's not there yet. On the other hand, this technology keeps on going. 4 years ago, we didn't have any FPV setup at all. And around 2 years ago, you had spent like $200 or $300 and then solar for half a day, and you would get
Yeah,
like a
12-gram setup.
yeah, exactly. You would get a 12-gram setup, and now you can buy these little cameras all in one,
For
3.6 gram.
$26.
Yeah, exactly. For
Crazy.
26 bucks, plug them in, and boom, they work. And we've gone through so much hassle only 2 years ago to build these FPV setups, which basically occupied us for most of the time after we have sort of overcome the flight controller hurdle.
Yeah, when
So.
I started, the Altitude RC, was it the separate VTX camera, power supply
Yeah.
cables between the two? And they were expensive, like you're saying. I think the first one I got maybe cost me a couple of $100.
Yep. So I still have quite a few. They're actually still good. If someone is still looking for a good FPV camera, a separate one, the MC900, that still outperforms all of these little crap cameras in terms of image quality. And I'm
Yeah.
actually about to build a little one. I tried twice already, but I failed for some reason. Um, Taking one of these small VTXs from these all-in-one units, which only weighs like a gram, and couple
Mm.
that with an MC900 camera. For some reason, exactly, that's what's Adam currently holding in there. It's a little
Oh,
larger
sorry.
um, than the cameras that we use on the Tiny Whoops, for example. The camera itself weighs around 3 gram, but it produces a lot better image than most of the all-in-one modules. So yeah, Adam, I've taken the plug apart and put another plug on there and connected that to one of these AIO VTXs that I
Oh,
harvested from one broken whoop cam, but it sort of has problems, and that is it's completely overblown. The image is way too white for some reason. So
hmm.
yeah, I didn't follow that through, but yeah, this is how we used to build um, uh, them separate camera and then a separate, these are the old 400 milliwatt transmitters that we used in the first place, where I thought, yeah, 25 milliwatt, that's the typical limit, but I do have a ham radio license, so, I make a 2 megawatt transmitter if that's what it needs. So we used those 400 milliwatt transmitters, which didn't have any interface or something, so we even soldered you might still remember that, and we soldered
Dip
these dip
switch.
switches to it, so you can even change the frequency. Some of them in the beginning, I've just put a solder bridge across from ground to the pin where I wanted to have channel 7 or something. Yeah, exactly. Or you have the better ones already, the 3-pin ones. I do have the old 4-pin ones, so that saved another
Yeah,
gram or something
where you
to
had to
put.
break it off.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, just building the VTX was, as Peter said, like a couple $100 of investment, because, you don't only have to buy the parts that you need, but also you have to buy the parts that you break, and you have to buy the parts that are wrong, etc. And then eventually, after a couple $100 of spending and a couple of days of soldering and burning up stuff, then finally you get to something, and then, oh no, you realize that it has a lot of lines in the video when you start flying, so you had to go back to the drawing board and introduce another complexity, which is a voltage filter in between there. So yeah, that's what we did, and yeah, a lot of fine soldering. I still remember I made lots of these little harnesses which had like 4 wires coming out. One for the power in, one for the power out, one for the video camera, and one for the VTX to connect it all together.
The good old days.
Exactly.
Last year.
Yeah, so when I was putting the plan together for this live cast here, I was thinking, we have the saying of, for example, dog years. Dog years, one dog year is
7.
7 regular years, so a dog ages much quicker. Now a computer, there's maybe one computer year is maybe like 20 human years. Computer from last year, oh yeah, that's already pretty old. But a computer from 5 years ago, man, that's already on its way out. You better get a new one. But so how do we?
Moore's law.
Yeah. So how do we translate this into quadcopter years? In 4 years, that's where history only started. So one quadcopter year, one flight controller year, that's maybe 25 human years. Computer from flight controller from 4 years ago, yeah, that's just like so old. Why would you bother? I do have them, and if someone would come and ask me for a flight controller, I would say yes, I do have some of these micro MWC flight controllers here, but I really don't recommend you go through the hassle of setting them up and then having something that works not even half as good as if you would spend $16 on one clone flight controller from Banggood. So, real builders do it dead bug style, says Elvis. What's up, Elvis? Haven't seen you in here for quite a while. I thought you had left the building already. So, radar needs a weed whacker. The beat track on the video was freaking awesome, says Elvis. I don't know what video you mean. The Pedro V. So, let's see. Any other questions I can dig out of the chat room? So if you have questions, you might want to mention my name in there, then it's a little easier for me to pick it out of the chat stream. So just type @Dr. Ben, like it's been done here, so you can tag people in the chat, and then it makes it pop out a little more. Apart from that, there's lots of discussion going on here. I don't want to read all of that. I'm just scrolling through and looking for question marks. And I've arrived at the end of it. So yeah, let's connect to that. I mean, we are already way over the time, but that's already kind of the habit on this channel here. So let's see if we can move on either in chronological order or maybe just scatter a little bit and show what else is available or has been available on the flight controller horizon, just to show a few things for those who haven't been tagging along all the time. So I have a few others here on the
Show
table.
them the Lisa.
Oh, actually, I don't have that Lisa anymore.
I
here.
know. It
So,
went to one of the guys on the forum.
Yeah, so-
Mullet. Mullet got that one.
Yeah, so a few very old and very expensive ones, which I bought at some stage. Two is the Lisa S, which I think I paid around, I think, $600 for that flight controller.
Oh.
And it's and I've spent like weeks hacking around with that. So it's like an open source project, and the the issue with that flight controller is not only that it's very complex in itself, so you had to do some really crazy soldering to make it work, and but you also had to run in order to use all the advanced features, because this was a much more advanced flight controller than we have developed. It has lots of other integrations. It has a much faster CPU. It has like an extra
GPS,
GPS and a ground
all
station
that,
control software.
OSD.
And so what you had to do in order to connect this is to set up the whole ground station, which was another open source project basically, and I failed to set this up. So I've installed a separate machine and then installed Ubuntu on this and installed and compiled it all there, and I just failed getting it to even do the simplest things. I wanted to have the only feature that I actually wanted of this flight controller is to have GPS position hold. So I wanted to fly around and just flick a switch and make it stop there. I didn't even want to have any waypoint flying or any autonomous stuff. I just wanted to be able to flick a switch and make it stand there, make it wait there. And yeah, I failed at doing this, so I eventually gave this one away. But if anyone is interested in researching that, or yeah, I think buying this I cannot recommend at this stage. But just out of interest, it's the Lisa S, which is the small version of the Lisa M, which is part of a whole other probably commercially used flight controllers. Very advanced, but yeah, I didn't have any luck with that, so I passed it on, I think, as part of the last Christmas giveaway, I think it was, along with two other flight controllers, which have also been a lot more advanced, which I don't have here anymore because I've given them away.
Autoquad.
Which was the Autoquad.
Autoquad.
Yeah, the Autoquad M4, exactly. Same story here. They have a complex software attached to this, which you need to run in order to control them, and I failed at running that properly. Or actually, this worked better because there was kind of a little more streamlined piece of software. But what I wanted is to have, a little quad that I can crank around in manual mode, like all our other quads, and then flick a switch, and it should just stop mid-air, and via altitude control and GPS should just hold its position. But I failed in PID tuning this flight controller, so it had some very sophisticated looking way of configuring the PIDs. You wouldn't set the PIDs manually, but you would put in the dimensions of your build into some calculator, and that would spit out the PIDs. But that worked so bad that this thing, I never could get it to fly properly in manual mode. So it kind of flew, but it was never really that sporty and controllable like all of our self-built quads. So I've just given up on that and said, okay, I've spent a lot of money and time on that, but that's not what I want. I'm perfectly happy with a thing which just does what I'm inputting. I don't want to have any smart things in there. I just want to have this thing to fly. I just want to feel in control. So yeah, these two are missing here, but I have a few others that I just want to run across the camera to show you guys. So yeah, this was all the traditional Alienways. This is here a copy of the classic Narrow. That's what you've seen, what Pedro has built as well, and that's also what we still currently commercially produce. So if you want to have one of those cards, you can go on my website, micromotorwarehouse.com, and look for Alien FC. We have them with a blue PCB and with a few minor changes on the plugs, and with the addition of a 5-volt out. But basically, the same card is still available if you want to fly one of the old ones. And a little later, I might also talk about the unique feature that still makes me keep flying those, which is the ability to still hack around very closely to the core of that thing and change the code to do things like, for example, manual in-flight PID changes. Yeah, but let's move those to the side for now and have a quick look at these here, we briefly touched on those already. So these are the few of the micro MWC controllers. They're running a 32.8 processor, which does not include any USB interface. So over the plug here on the front, you need to plug in um, an extra programmer and program them this way. But one of the very nice features of this card is it's very small. It's literally the size of a small stamp. I mean, in comparison to one of the classic or the square Alien Wii's, you can see it's almost like half the footprint of that controller, and at the same time it has a receiver integrated. So you see this little wire here popping out is actually the receiver antenna. Whilst on this card there's no receiver on there, so over this plug you would need to connect a separate receiver. Now the receiver in here isn't the best. It has all sorts of issues, but it worked. This whole thing is probably the lightest programmable all-in-one flight controller that yeah, to this date. I mean, even the Whoop style flight controllers like this Acro Whoop here is still larger than that. And you know, this is a controller that came out somewhere in, I think, end of 2013 or beginning of 2014. So I've done lots of experiments with these. This year's one, which I've completely covered in hot glue in order to survive landing in the ocean. So this one here is a sky or ski sky, or whatever you want to call it, which comes without motor plugs, which in this case is a good thing because the company actually produced those boards for quite some time with the motor plugs connected wrong. Many people had issues with these cards. I have used one or two of them. This one here was never used, just sitting in my flight controller drawer and waiting for very, very bad times. So,
zombie apocalypse.
yeah, I don't see any other chance why I would want to fly this thing, because yeah, that's one of the controllers where the developers actually made very little effort to support their customers in the form of proper documentation or working sketch, etc. So yeah, even though this is made by a commercial company, the work of many enthusiasts had to go into this to make it even work properly. So what else do we have on the table here? So these here are controllers that are just sitting in my drawer because I've taken them out of ready to fly quads. Just keep them there in case anyone comes to me and wants to have their quad fixed. This comes out of an E-Sheen. I think this is out of an E010. I think some of these cards, that's why I still have them here on the table. You can, not sure if you can see this, but there's, you know, some of these holes in there. They're actually labeled with ground, software clock, and things like that. So you can, on some of them, can make up little pin headers to connect them to a programmer, and then reflash them with like a silver XXX, I think it's called.
Yeah, silverware. That guy's incredible.
Yeah, so there's an alternative firmware that you can install on some of these cards. I'm not sure if exactly on this one, but yeah, a few of those. Here's a different one. Not even sure where this came from, but some of them you can reprogram, but it's usually quite an effort to get this done. Then what do we have here? This is a Nano QX flight controller. Yeah, the Nano QX was one of the very first commercially available ready to fly micro quads, and many of us have used that flight controller to fly lots of other things. It's very nice because it has a quite well working integrated DSM flight controller. But yeah, the main two downsides of this quad literally is that it has the plugs for the motors on the bottom, so it's quite awkward to mount because you cannot fly this thing upside down because you can't change the settings on those, so you have to fly it this way up, and that makes it quite difficult to mount in most of our quads. But a few people came up with custom frames to actually fly this Nano QX flight controller, and it works really well for quite a few different setups. So this was then followed up by Blade with a very similar, just differently shaped flight controller. This one here is one of the boards for the Inductrix. So it's in a diamond shape, which just aligns itself a little better to props on all four sides and makes the quad even smaller. But apart from that, same issues like the Nano QX flight controller, plugs on the bottom and not programmable. Then yeah, a few exotics here. This one I think is the multi-flight Nano BFC, which also I think came out somewhere in 2015. Had a couple of issues, but a very enthusiastic company / individual behind them, so quite a few people were flying these successfully. And yeah, they have a few really cool features. You can connect a VTX, which can be controlled over the software. It's also a hex flight controller, when I remember correctly. Yeah, I removed all the plugs here, but there's 6 motor connectors on here, so you can fly a hex with that. This was the first hex I think I've ever flown. Then what do we have here? This is actually a very exotic one. So even you guys, Pedro and Adam, you probably don't know this one here. It hasn't even flown. It's in my box of exotics, and yeah, I apologize to the creator of this. I don't remember your name at this stage, but look at this. It says serial number 1, and
Wow.
this is the I think there's probably only 2 or something ever made of this. I read this off the back here. It says this is the Nyla V 32U4 version 0.2, the Rainbow Lorikeet edition.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember that one because he was the other guy that developed his own board from Lance's initial files, and Rob was the other one.
Yeah, so this was, yeah, as I said, I don't remember who sent me this. It's a while ago, and I think we lost contact since. But yeah, that was sent to me by a fan, customer, enthusiasts who I've been in touch with for quite some time, who enjoyed my videos, and he has seen my quite a few of my videos over the featuring the lorikeets, little rainbow-colored parrots that yeah, Pete and I know from our backyards, but yeah, most people around the world don't know them, and are always amazed about seeing little cheeky birds in my yard. So in honor to that, yeah, this controller was created, and I got the version 1 of it. It's also one of the gems that I don't even dare to put into a flying quad, even though I'm sure it'll fly really well. But yeah, I'd be scared in losing it, so that's sitting in my collection. And yeah, it's admired from time to time, but mostly just sits there waiting for bad times. So this one here is also a classic narrow clone made from, can you still see it? This one was actually used, as you can see by the tape at the bottom. No, you can't see. There's nothing written on the back, or maybe I've covered it. Up on the front, you can see this little symbol there, top left of the large chip. That's the micro FPV.eu symbol. So this one here has been made by Rob in the Netherlands, exactly. So he sent me, I think, a few of those, and yeah, they work really well. So I think he also made quite a few of them commercially available. And then after that also, I don't have one on the table right here, but we should fix that. And give him a plug while we're at that. Rob also makes a hex version of the Alienware flight controller, which you can purchase on his website. Comes in these nice little boxes here, and flight controller looks like that. Oh, the family's coming back. I hear the doorbell going, so it might get a little noisy in a second. They just went to the beach, and yeah, as we drag out the stream, already coming back. Get grumpy at me that I'm still sitting in front of the whole equipment. So yeah, that's the F3 Hexa version 2 Alien Flight boards. You can get yourself one of those at microfpv.eu. And then to finish up what I have on the table here, these are a few Furious FPV Acro Whoop flight controllers, which all have some issues with the receivers. That's why I don't use any of those. I had a few more, but I gave them away already to some other poor bastards. So I don't know exactly what it is, but these receivers never really worked very well and dropped out of the sky after a couple of meters. But they have a very nice feature in there, which is like a little more fully featured flight receiver, which allows a back channel, so you can get voltage and RSSI signal on your transmitter, which I really liked. But yeah, I played around with that, and in the end, I think that's one of the features that you actually don't really need. I mean, reading the voltage on your transmitter didn't change the fact that these things only fly 2.5 to 3.5 minutes. Very reliably though, so sometimes it protects you when you plug in an already used battery, especially now. Can end bad if you're sitting at a river or something. So it would have warned you, Adam, that you plug it in and it says, no, this battery only has 3.8 volts. But yeah, in flight, it really doesn't make much of a difference. It's very hard to predict your flight time from the voltage on there, because the voltage fluctuates so much depending on throttle use, etc. So yeah, the main feature that I really liked on those was the back channel. But yeah, in the end, this didn't really provide much of an advantage, and yeah, these controllers had lots of other issues. That's why they are sitting in the drawer. And then last few, that's a little experiment that I did. I have lots of these. They're just some ready-to-fly flight controllers that we took out of yeah, little cheap I don't even know, top-selling X6 quadcopters, and made, equipped them with plugs and put them on a proper carrier plate to allow them to be mounted in other quads without too much hassle. But yeah, it doesn't really work too well because you need that crappy RTF transmitter to go with that. So they're just sitting here as an example of what's possible. And then here, just because it's fresh and in original condition, also sitting in my flight controller drawer, that's a Latrax Alias flight controller. I mean, it's huge in comparison. Look at that. That's the classic narrow, and this thing is, yeah, twice the footprint. Has lots of LEDs on there, etc. It's a really nice flight controller. Works really well. They really put thought into this. but still, replacing this with alien flight controllers and flies a lot better. Doesn't light up so well, but yeah. Main downside of these things is they're not controllable, programmable, so you can't change the settings and not make them fly as you want them to fly. So yeah, that rounds up what I have on the on the table here. So anything else you guys want to add to that?
I think you've summarized everything that I can think of.
Yeah, me too. I'd just like to thank you for putting this together for us all, Ben. It's been good.
Yeah, so thanks for joining in here. So for those of you who've joined later or didn't catch the beginning of why we're putting this all together, Peter put out the idea over the week on Facebook to create a Wikipedia article to put a few things together for people to read about the history and get an understanding for what controllers are available and how this all came together. So, and I've planned for quite a long time to generate content in that kind of form, as in doing a live stream that people can watch live and contribute to over the chat, and at the same time invite a couple of people into the Skype chat and include that into the live stream at the same time. So yeah, I think that worked really well, and I'm looking forward to repeat that in some way or form. So that's for you both. If you feel the need or the urge in the future to contribute in that form to one of my live streams, you're more than welcome. There's a spot for you at the upper right corner of my stream. And also to anyone else who who feels that he either has to say or to ask something, or just wants to have some publicity in our well-guarded circles here. Not guarded that we don't want to leave people in, but this is just not a mainstream topic. I mean, let's have a look again. So how many viewers do we have? Maybe like
We had like 27, I think.
27.
20 now.
Peak
20 now.
peak concurrent was 29. So yeah, feels like a small school class with some people in the front, always raising a hand and saying something, and a couple other people just sitting in the back and throwing spitballs. So yeah, a small little team of people who just kind of hang together and like sharing information about over the internet. I think this all feels to me like you're all old buddies of mine, even though I have most of you never seen in person. I mean, Peter, we met at some stage. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago in Ash's Google office.
Yep, he certainly did.
But yeah, that's
Google.
It's just coincidence because we happen to live on the same continent. But yeah, most other of you I've only met over the internet. But still, it feels like an old club of old friends. And yeah, this stream here was not really to put up an entertainment show in the first place, even though I've seen in the chat room that some of you guys enjoyed that. But in the first place, yeah, just for us to have a chat and get the contributions from all you guys out there to have the foundation to put together a little Wikipedia article to share what we're doing with even more people. And yeah, so I think now it's up to you, Peter, to scramble through these. I think almost 2 hours of conversation here to put something together and yeah, get it out there.
I'm on to it, Ben.
Yeah.
Peter's the Wikipedia guy.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for doing all that, Peter. Pushing the topics out there and sharing it with so many people, and always making sure that the places we we communicate in staying clean of all the nasty bastards who just want to come in there
like
to
Alan Wee.
yeah, exactly. That's a completely different story. So yeah, thanks for everyone who's been contributing in the chat room as always. I think that has been relatively busy in terms of how many different people have been in there today. So you didn't ask many questions though, so I'm a little bit disappointed about that. We should have taken a little bit more of that. So, but if you're watching the stream afterwards and you think we've missed anything, just post it in the comments of the YouTube recording, and we'll get to that at some stage later. Maybe we can even include the information either in the Wikipedia article or bring it up in one of the future episodes.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, great. Thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, I'll say we see you next time.
Thanks,
See
Ben.
you later.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
Bye.
So, should we play some music for the end?
Sure. Let's go out with a bang.
So,
Got some dig?
actually, yeah, I won't play any myself. It requires a different recording setup. But what I can do, yeah, actually, let's play some didgeridoo music. I got some recently sent to me on Facebook. That was a really good piece. I'll share that, and let me think, how do we do that? So, no, wrong button. So, switch over here. No, switch over here. Main camera. No, the camera's up here. I'm digging around on my computer on Facebook to find what my good old friend Jay has sent me recently, which was a pretty good modern didgeridoo performance. So even though we are living here in the country of didgeridoo, this has not been by Aborigines, but this has been, I don't know where it's even from, but a very modern didgeridoo performance, which is even played by a girl, which is, according to my information, not accepted in most Aboriginal tribes. So that's why you don't really see girls playing didgeridoo much. So yeah, sorry for the delay here, but my Facebook, it's like a river of information. Once it's been flowing past, it's very difficult to find it again. I'm scrolling and scrolling. But yeah, if you like didgeridoo music, it'll be worth your while to hang around a little bit. Let me...
I'm waiting.
Okay. for the time being, check the chat room up on stage. Oh, here we go. I found it already. So put that on full screen. Jeremy Netak. Oh, come on, it's already playing. Start this from the beginning. And can we also make this full screen? So, full screen. And come on, start from the beginning. Come on. So, here we go. I think I got it working. So, yeah, let's go out with a couple of tunes. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll leave you with a bit of music, which sounds a little bit Aussie, but I don't know where it's actually coming from. See you later.
See ya. Bye. See the video, but I'm not hearing any audio. Well, it's probably because I don't have my. Okay. Well, I guess I need to use Skype to be able to listen to this.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam.
All right. See you guys later. Thank you, Benedict, for having this conversation with us.
Yeah, sorry you guys don't hear it on Skype, but it's coming clear on the stream. So, yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for joining me in that. Thanks for your contribution. See you soon.
All right. See you, Ben. Thanks again. See you, Adam.